Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Stormworks. Today I have a vehicle showcase for you. This is my V-22 tilt-rotor aircraft. I wanted a vehicle, especially for career, which could do many things at once. It can transfer passengers, it can move from one place to the next quickly, it can land vertically so it doesn't need an airstrip, and it can transport cargo. Because sometimes you gotta do these cargo runs where you supply either the power plant, the lighthouse, or anything other. For that purpose I created the V-22. Or at least my take on it, because as you might see here in the back with these tail rotors, it is not exactly the way that a V-22 is. Now, the way that this aircraft is set up is with as much automation in mind as possible. One thing that I had a problem with is that this aircraft sometimes would smash its rotor blades onto the tarmac, which of course leaves you without rotor blades very, very quickly. Now it does have a good bit of fuel on board, and with that I'm capable of getting pretty much anywhere I want. I will go into technical detail on this in a minute. First let me show you the takeoff sequence. The props are currently, or the engine nacelles as I call them, are currently in the vertical elevation, so I can take off vertically. And you are not supposed to land other than vertically with this aircraft. If you do try it, the game will smash those props onto the tarmac. It is no fun at all. Landing gear retracted, and now the game allows me to use the engine nacelle orientation and either go to Helo Mode or to plane mode. If I'm in plane mode, speed is very, very nice. I can usually get up to about 250 kilometers per hour. So with that, you can very, very quickly travel from point A to point B. If at some point you arrive at your destination, let's say I want to land at or close to Terminal Spycakes, you fly over there very quickly, and with almost 2600 liters of starting fuel, and I think it uses only about 10 liters of fuel per kilometer, you can get almost anywhere extremely quickly and very efficiently. You could even make this thing faster if you wanted to, by going all out and putting jet engines on it. Now I have two gyros on it to make sure that I actually have enough stability on this thing. Here is Terminal Spycakes. Let's say we want to extract somebody from the top of this hill over here. I switch it back to Helo Mode. You can see that the speed drops pretty dramatically. I switch it back from plane mode to Helo Mode. Altitude, of course, is going up, because now we're transferring horizontal speed into vertical speed. So I've got to give it a little bit less throttle. And there you go. Now you're in Helo Mode. Now, what this thing can do is, of course, transfer passengers, or at least transport passengers around. For that, I have 6 seats in the back here. And, of course, I have the pilot seat for myself and one for a co-pilot. This thing doesn't actually do anything. It does have a couple of monitors in front of it, but those are mostly to be determined. They're not really having a purpose at the moment. Now, over here in the back we have, and I think that the game is a little bit frustrated with me going up, because it won't actually let me walk around anymore. There we go. I have a hatch down here, so I can parachute out of it. And in case I need to be loading cargo or offloading cargo, I have the ramp. And even here, you can stand on it and maneuver around. Now, as for building one of these, that can be quite a time-consuming process, because you need to get the right pitch, you need to make sure that it's steady, you need to make sure that the thing doesn't crash, tip over, roll over. All these elements I had to go through in order to build this thing. So let me show you how it is built technically. The V-22. The core operating process of this thing is that it has these engine nacelles pretty much in line with the center of mass. There's a little blue square down the middle of the airplane, helicopter, whatever you want to call it, the aircraft. Then you have these engine nacelles. In these engine nacelles, I have a I have a small engine, just a small engine, a generator, a gearbox, a generator again, to make sure that I get a little bit more power, because this thing is pretty energy hungry. And then I pipe the power over here towards a rotor. This is your standard large rotor. Blade orientation is set to positive. You can also, and actually this should be set to neutral, to make sure that you can determine how much collective you want, so how much elevation power. To make sure that these things actually allow rotation, over here I have a robotic pivot. This thing allows it to either pitch forward or pitch upwards. And as you might see, it is a fluid robotic pivot, which means that fluid is pumped from the wing, which is where I have my fuel, through here. So this is a port, goes through this thing. So that's the pivot, and you can almost not see it, but here it is. Down, backwards, and over here it is entering the engine. You cannot quite get the look on it, but this is the fuel entry port. So that's how I got around the problem of, do I rotate the whole wing? Do I get fuel to the engine? How do you do this? Radiator on the back and light on the side. Then I had to figure out how to stabilize this aircraft, because that turned out to be pretty tricky. Because on the one hand, you want it to fly as an airplane. On the other hand, you want it to fly as a helicopter. And those things are pretty, well, in conflict if you use one gyro. So I decided to build a microprocessor for it. This microprocessor is basically the brain of the V22, in the sense that it directs the controls from one side to the next. So I have the controls for both the plane and the helicopter bound to the same keys. A and D, W and S, left and right, up and down, these four. Those are basically the keys that are driving the helicopter and the plane. They go in here, and then you got the roll for the helicopter, the yaw for the helicopter, and the pitch for the helicopter, and the same thing for the plane. The way that I'm doing this is I have two gyros. I'm not sure if it can be done more efficiently. It might be, but I haven't found the way to do it yet. This thing receives roll, yaw, and pitch for the plane. No up and down, because you don't have any. Directs the yaw over to the tail. So those are the tail control surfaces. And for the helicopter, that is this gyro over here, I got the yaw set up to the electric engines, which are then driving these things, the fans. With those, I can still yaw if I'm in a helicopter, or if I'm in helicopter mode. Now, the original V22 actually does this slightly differently, yawing around, because it pitches one of these things slightly different from the other. So this one could be upright, and this one could be slightly forward, and that's the way that it yaws. I have tried to replicate that in Stormworks, but I haven't been able to make it work. So I took a little bit of creative freedom over here and added two of these fanless, or the, what are they called again? The ducted fans. Now, the way that this thing is set up, and this is a very important part of this aircraft, this microcontroller over here. It might look a little intimidating, but let me walk you through it. Helo Mode determines whether all of these numerical switch boxes are active. The way that this works is that you got the pitch, so this is the W and the S key. It goes to both numerical switch boxes. If Helo Mode is on, then that means that I'm using the pitch for the helo. So I'm pitching the helicopter forward and backwards, or pitching the aircraft forwards and backwards, using the props. If I'm in plane mode, I don't want it to do that, because if it does that, it's gonna go for a nosedive. It's gonna dip down very quickly. So when it's on, this switch box says, yes, you can transfer the signal to the pitch for the helicopter. If this thing is not on, does not receive the helo mode, then this thing doesn't work. So the pitch on the rotors doesn't work. The pitch for the plane is off by default, unless it is on. So if helicopter mode is on, then it doesn't actually transfer anything. And that's when the pitch for the plane doesn't work. This way, we're using the first value on or second value off mode, and I do that with all three of them, pitch, roll, and yaw. This is how I make this thing actually fly, both in plane mode and in helicopter mode. If you want to have a closer look at this, you can find the vehicle linked by the Steam Workshop in the description down below. Aside from that, there is quite a bit more technology to make sure that, of course, the doors work, the loading dock or the loading ramp works. These are all fairly basic microcontrollers. If you can get this, then all the other microcontrollers are very easy, because they are just, here we are, hinge door switches. So this is a microcontroller that says, I need you to have a toggle, and it can be either one or the other, depending on how many controls I have. If it is on, I want you to give an on signal, and I want you to connect to the hinge. So an on signal says, I need you to orient it to a 0.15 rotation. Otherwise, a minus 0.55. That is all. So for the doors, it is, and I am going with the assumption that you are pretty advanced in Stormworks if you want to build something like this. For the doors, it is fairly doable. The most difficult element of this aircraft was definitely to figure out how to keep it stable in flight. And the trick for me was doing this, which I call the V22 brain, a big microprocessor, linked to one gyro over here and one gyro over there. And aside from that, it flies very, very stable. So this is my vehicle showcase. Of course, the vehicle can be adjusted as much as you like, and that part I'm going to leave up to you. The vehicle is linked down below in the description. You can adjust it as you see fit. You can throw in a bio bed, you can throw in a harness, you can make this area over here bigger so you can lower a stretcher to make sure you can get people up. You can add firefighting equipment, you can add skids to it in case you want to do ice landings. Whatever you want to do with this aircraft, it is yours to adjust. Let me know what your thoughts are on the aircraft. How would you adjust this thing? How would you make it more efficient? Let me know down below in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any special requests for a vehicle, let me know and I'll see if I can build it. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.